We're talking about kings. Can we talk about the new king of the heavyweight division?
The scariest man in the world. The scary
man.
Of course, man.
So listeners, last night, if you're listening to this, it's probably a few days since then, but there is a new heavyweight champion. His name is Francis Ngannou. He is from Cameroon, and he knocked out Stipe Miocic in the second round and then hit him with one more just to make sure that he was out when he clearly was. His knee popped, his ankle popped, all that shit. He got hit with the icebreaker.
He looked like you.
Yes, he looked just like me. Yeah. I made that face. That was all swollen. I did. I swear.
Help, please. Oh man, yeah, man. He got flatlined last night. Congratulations to Francis Ngannou. I think this was. I think the performance that we got from him last night was probably one of the scariest things we've seen from someone that has that type of power, but at the same time wasn't overly anxious, was able to stuff takedowns, was able to show like, hey, I'm not the person that you fought in 2018. He literally came in looking just scary, and it's now that there's so many questions that come past that fight. Now looking at this Francis Ngannou, who can really beat him? The challenges that face him. Well, it's no longer will he be able to rise to the occasion. Will the occasion be able to rise to him at this point from seeing a fight like that last night? Like he didn't lose a round. Stipe was doing good with some of his striking, but maybe some people that are listening, maybe they didn't watch the same fight as us. But I can definitely tell you this: if you watched the fight last night, or the other day, like we did in UFC 260. It's without question, this may be one of the scariest guys we've seen. Definitely just seeing how the way he fought last night. Depending on how he could perform, if he could perform like that moving forward. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent.
Spence, how did you feel when Francis snapped him down like that and defended the takedown and took his back? How did you feel after you saw that?
I was like, my eyes got peeled open. I said, son, there is no way.
You shouldn't do that.
Yeah. And he did it so, and you could tell the way he did it was as if like he's practiced this 1,001 times in the gym. Like as anybody that's wrestled before, especially, he sprawled so easily and fluid and was able to go and take the back in such a way where it's like, oh, this isn't like something he just learned like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's good at it. It was technique. He did it impressively.
And then just started bombing shots even from that perspective. Like one thing I will give credit to Stipe for is that he has one impressive chin, because the punches that he was getting hit with were punches that flatline almost any competitor that came to Francis' door prior to that. Like,
I agree, bro. We have to give Stipe his flowers because one, he's the heavyweight GOAT, right? And that's a debate, but for the sake of this, he endured a lot. Like, I think he was concussed, and I think he was out before Francis finally put him down. Way before that. Because in that first round, when he got taken down, and Francis was unloading the shots and all that, I thought Stipe was like, oh, this guy, he's out on his feet. And I think he's just trying to regroup because he wasn't pressing forward, none of that. And when he came back to the fucking corner, his coach was like, hey, man, you got to start doing some offense. And I don't think that was sound advice, because I think his coaching staff was probably like, oh shit, we weren't expecting this. And I think that the game plan was, hey, we're going to wait for him to explode, bum rush. We're going to counter off of that. We're going to mix into wrestling. Well, you saw the fight. Francis wasn't bum rushing. He was taking his time, picking the shots, leg kick, head kick, body punch. He went to the top. He exploded a little bit, but then he backed off to, kind of calm down, ease up. You could tell Francis' coaching staff, they're like, look, you can win. Just calm down and let's add some tools to the game. Now, second round, he got hit with that one punch. Now, I know there's a little saying like, oh, he got rocked. I don't think he's rocked. I think when he got hit with that one punch, Francis was probably like, okay, let me stop because I don't want to get knocked out. So he probably was like, all right, let me stop. Stipe immediately came forward, check left hook. And, all the memes, he's fell backwards holding a progressive sign, all that shit. Phenomenal performance by Francis. He won from the first bell till when Herb Dean sprinted forward and stopped it. I just thought I was very impressed. I was like, this is very scary for the rest of the heavyweight division. It's very scary for John Jones, who might scam his way out of the fight because, he realizes like, oh shit, I can't beat this guy because it's going to take wrestling to beat him. But I know Dana White is talking to his little shit, and we'll see if John actually is going to take the fight or not. Hopefully John doesn't do nothing, be like, I want 50 million, because we already know he's not getting 50 million. So hopefully John can get paid for the fight. Hopefully he can get 3 to 4 billion to take this fight. With that being said, I hope Francis gets paid millions too.
Yep.
I mean,
absolutely.
So I thought great main event. I think this is a big moment for the year for mixed martial arts, UFC more specifically. That was just like, wow, nobody was expecting that. People thought like, oh, if he won by knockout, it would be from like a crazy exchange. No, man.
It's like just throwing loose punches and just flat slides them. It's like, no, it's like he literally looked like, no pun intended, he looked like the ultimate fighter. Like he like he looked like the ultimate fighter that was like freakishly huge, can punch as hard as a Ford Escort. But at the same time, it's like, but he has the patience of like a turtle at that point where it's like, I'm not even by him, like not tiring himself out by throwing all those punches. It's like, yo, someone like this, third or fourth round, if he's not gassed out by the third round fighting like that, and someone's because you have to adapt to his style to some extent. Because you can't fight your own. It's going to be hard to fight your own game against someone that, at the end of the day, to take him down, you got to take a risk on getting clipped. He has good defense. And then it's like, if you stand on your feet with him, there's a huge risk. There's a huge risk of getting flatlined. So it's like he has like a Midas touch. Like as soon as he touches you, it's like a brick of gold. You're just laid out. So
here's the thing. I think if you want to beat Francis, I think the recipe to it is in the early rounds, you get him in some type of I think in the early rounds you get him a little exhausted from like an extended exchange of some type, and you keep on trying to do that process. Like, and I think you would not necessarily stop until maybe the third or fourth. Because it's like if he has an extended grappling exchange, like do you think he's going to be able to hold up in the third and fourth like that?
Well, here's the problem with that, though. At heavyweight, different landscape. We talk about Stipe, collegiate wrestler. He has some wrestling attributes, and he outworked Francis. Francis legitimately stopped his takedown, used his fucking weight to complete the sprawl, spun around his back. Now, mind you, when he stopped the takedown, it wasn't like he stopped it with brute force. There was technique. He kept Stipe's head down. He did the underhooks. Like that's
I
like
literally said all that. I said all that. I get that. But my point is this: like, do you think he could do that for like 3 or 4 minutes and then be the same way in the third and fourth round?
But do you think
that's all I'm saying?
Do you think someone can do that to him for those multiple rounds?
Exactly.
My bad.
I didn't say somebody's going to do it. I said the way to do it would be. That's what I said.
Exactly.
You sound like Oscar, that's like Oscar De La Hoya talking about how he knows how to beat Floyd Mayweather. Like it's like there's a formula to be. Yes, there might be a formula to beat this person, right? But if nobody can go in and produce that formula, right? Can go in and be active within that formula to beat that guy. Definitely with someone like not Stipe, but definitely like someone like Francis. I think there's a lot of fighters out there that have good chins that can take punches, but I don't think there's enough fighters out there that can take the shots that Stipe took if they get put in that same position.
That's great. I never said there was somebody like that. I just said, hey, this might be the way to do it. That's all I said. That's what my point was.
Man, I'll tell you what. You have to have a chin. If you don't
Absolutely.
If you don't have a chin, you can't fight like that. You can't. You just can't. Stipe, man, I'm telling you, after that shit, when he was getting clocked on the ground and he worked his way back up, he clearly was out of it. It just shows how tough he is because he was able to still go into the second round. He was done before the second round. He was getting cracked, man.
No, but you made a good point earlier when you said that he wasn't really throwing any shots. Like after like that little exchange, he was just he was throwing little feints here and there, but he wasn't really throwing like actual punches. So it was kind of odd. Like I saw that, and maybe he was like a little dazed, or he was just doing enough to stay with it. Maybe a leg kick here and there, and that was about it.
Yeah, man. I think, and when Stipe charged forward before he finally, got folded up and shit like that, you could tell that it was like running off an instinct because he just got dropped, got up, and he was getting cracked. He hit Ngannou with one good one, and in his mind probably like, oh, this is it. His brain was scrambled, man. It was like cartoon shit, brain bouncing against the fucking walls inside his head. and Francis put his lights out and almost fucking fatality'd him. The shit was just, it's crazy, man. I'm sorry. I think he'll knock John Jones out or Derek Lewis. It's going to be hard to beat a guy like that.
I think this is a fight that John could easily lose. It's going to be tough. Like if he beats Francis Ngannou, it's going to be very tough. Like this is not going to be an easy fight for John Jones at all.
Yeah. Or Derek Lewis.
Derek Lewis is going to lose. If he fights Francis, he's going to lose. Straight up. And I like Derek Lewis.
Dana said that Derek Lewis is up next, unless John, they figure out that.
All right, Dana. All right, go ahead, pass up on that $1 million fight, Dana. Go ahead.
No, I agree with you, John. I don't see Dana doing that, but last night he was saying, "Oh, Derek is up next." He might be saying that for leverage.
Yeah, all right.
At that point, it's just talk. There's no way. Of all money fights, I'm not gonna lie to you. Dumb. Yeah, to be honest with you, the only way it would make sense for that to happen would only be to be like, all right, you would have to give him someone that okay, Francis is going to beat this guy. If we give him Derek Lewis, you have to give him someone that he can just beat an overkill, right? To heighten up that highlight reel to sell a big ticket fight like that. But even then, it's like, I don't want John Jones sitting out for 2 years waiting for a fight. So I see the only fight to make after this is John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. And even you even heard the hypeness coming from DC. You finally want to get into the heavyweights, and this is the guy that's going to greet you. I think John can beat a lot of guys in the heavyweight division, but when it comes to someone like Francis, it'd be nice to see him at 205 champion again, because to be honest, I just don't see anybody beating Francis for a while. And that's all for what I saw last night, of course. Now, things may change because eventually you figure out a person's system, or you figure out a way to beat the person. But seeing that, it's just going to be too dangerous. It's going to be dangerous for anybody fighting him moving forward. I think the more interesting thing to me at this point is if John Jones fights Francis Ngannou, will Izzy decide to be in the corner as well as Kamaru Usman? That's the most interesting thing at this point, because I feel like we all know what's written on the wall. It's already written on the wall what the end result possibly can be. John Jones has a chance, but at the same time, seeing someone like that fight is going to be a long day for anyone and a lot of heavy lifting.
No matter what, we've never seen John Jones get hit like he'll be hit by Francis.
And I think the scary thing about it is John does get hit.
Yes.
DC was clocking him. Dominic Reyes was teeing off on him. Thiago Santos was able to land a few hits. None of those guys have nowhere near the amount of power Francis has. That's not somebody that you want to fuck around and let me see how hard he hits. That's not the person, because you will wake up in a hospital bed with the lights and the doctors, pouring gallons of smelling salt on you to make sure that you're okay, because he's a guy literally it's scary because he could cripple you. If he hits you the right way, he could fucking cripple you. And like he crippled Stipe, blew his fucking knee out. Like that shit is crazy. That shit is crazy. And his thing is, he doesn't want to hurt Stipe, like damage his career. But hey, until the ref stops it, I have to fuck you up because you have something that I want, which is the world championship.
Yeah, he learned from Sean O'Malley, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, man. What do you think about that fight, Spence?
I thought, to me, my biggest critique was like Sean O'Malley was a little too confident in these walk-offs because he did the walk-off twice.
Yeah.
He did the walk-off. The first time he did the walk-off, he had a chance. Like, he could have finished the fight there, didn't have a chance. And then it did look like he started to have a little bit of difficulty, but he won the first round. Then in that second round, it was like, because I believe it was 2 rounds, correct? Or 3?
No, it was 3. It was 3 rounds.
It was 3.
Yeah,
Okay.
it went 3.
If he stopped chasing like that highlight reel or stopped chasing that, I'm trying to do a walk-off, you want to have a lot of problems. But then you see what happens when he tried to do a walk-off and they said, oh, no, the fight's not over, and he just did an unnecessary punch.
I thought that was, nobody wants to see anybody get hurt in the octagon, right? But if I was him and the first time, it's like, hey, they could have stopped the fight, but they didn't stop the fight. It was actually a good reason to not stop the fight because he wasn't out. He had just got knocked down. But the second time, it's like, hey, I got to end this because they need to make sure it's over. So Sean O'Malley walked over and made sure the fight was over. That's what he did. I mean, I'm not really mad at it, you know?
And I don't know if you could really blame the referee on that neither. I think it's one of those situations where, and that's just how it is in the game of mixed martial arts. But with Sean O'Malley, I was impressed with it. Nigel was telling me last night, actually, that's what he needed. You know what I mean? Because most Sean O'Malley fights we see, the guys, they're getting knocked out in the first round. You know what I mean? He's walk-off KOs like he likes to do. So him getting those 3 rounds in, and then finally towards the end of it, he gets the knockout. It's good because he's getting those minutes in. And the fights are only going to get harder from here, where people who are more durable, they know what it's like to fight against a flashy striker. So for him, this is the experience he needs. I think it was a good win. Should he run it back with Cheeto in a rematch? You can do that, but I think the UFC, they're probably going to try to wait a little bit to kind of like build both guys up so the rematch will be bigger. I seen something that Dominic Cruz called him out. That would be a fun fight, actually, and that would be a good fight. But we'll see.
Makes sense right now too.
Say that again.
Makes sense right now too.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes with Sean. His stock went up with this one.
And if you were watching the fight, listeners, in the co-main event, somebody whose stock also went up was Vincente Luque, and we had somebody whose stock went down in Tyron Woodley, who got stopped in the first round after a crazy exchange by submission. I'm not sure what the actual name of the submission was, but he got
Darce choke.
Thank you. Yeah, he got choked out. So it's just what it is.
Time to hang it up, man.
Yep.
4 straight loss. Don't get me wrong. It's like he was a champion at one point, but it's time to hang it up, man. Like he started off strong too. Like that was the crazy part. He started off strong, looked like he was having a little bit of trouble. Then he kind of came back trying to fight, but it's just one of those things where at this point in his career, I think he's 38, 39.
Yeah, he's 38.
Yeah, like he has nothing to prove. He's been the champion of the world. Had he been able to come back and win this fight, there would have been a different conversation. But four straight losses against top tier opponents. Those first 3 are top tier opponents. At the end of the day, all fighting for championships. You lose to this one, so it's like it's not much more to say from that. For me, it's time for him to hang it up. It's been great watching him fight. I will say that.
I agree with you, Spence. I think instead of him going to Bellator and fighting at a lesser league, and no knock on the Bellator fighters because they're good fighters there, but we all know UFC is the premier organization. So instead of Tyron going down there and possibly doing more damage to his health and legacy, because those guys can probably beat him at this time as well, hey, man, just those 4 losses, you've been losing worse each time. man, try to go out on your shield, as he did. Because like you said, he was having some success early. He landed some good, strong punches. Then Vincente cracked him. And then, I think he was knocked out against the cage before he like fell into the fucking choke.
Oh, yeah.
And
he's not on his feet.
Yeah. And just shouts out to Tyron, man. He went out on his shield, and just sucks that it took him 4 straight losses for him to go out on his shield. And if he decides to hang him up, I don't think anybody would be upset. But if he decides to fight another one, it won't be in the UFC. It'll definitely be in Bellator or the PFL, whatever. Yeah. But he shouldn't be fighting because he's not going to be fighting at elite level no more.
Yeah. It's weird, like being like fans of the sport and just like seeing him kind of like take this like decline in his career. You know what I mean? Like it's odd because it's like, what more does he really have to fight for? Like he's had a respectable career. And I mean, if he, really wants to take like a break and come back and fight, I mean, I guess he can do that. But like, what would be the point? That's the way I see it. So like, I agree with y'all.
He has a shot now where he can kind of do some other things that he's worked on, whether it be being in movies, working on like being an announcer more, or even going back to his music career.
I knew you were saying that. I was waiting for it.
Like T-Dog, he can always come back rapping like T-Dog again, like whatever. Like he can really put all his focus in other areas now. Like with no knock on him, he had a great career at the end of the day. It's unfortunate, but I think some of these guys that I've heard, I remember watching certain interviews before from fighters, and they say one of the reasons they stick around too long is because they don't know what to do other than fight. So in his case, he has other avenues. Hopefully he can take advantage of those while he's still mentally healthy still, because last thing you want to do is see Tyron Woodley be one of those punch drunk like fighters at the end of the day. So,
man, and shouts out to Vincente Luque. This guy, if you're an MMA fan, you know of him and whatever, but to the casual fans who tuned into the pay-per-view last night, now they're going to know like, wow, this guy can fight, because even though he was getting hit with Willie, he wasn't out of it. He kept walking forward, and until Willie kind of bounced off the fence and his head followed right into the dart stroke, and he choked his ass to sleep. So, or not to sleep, but made him tap out. So, shouts out to Vincente Luque, and he's going to get a big fight moving forward. I think he's going to get a maybe not a top 5 opponent, but he'll definitely get top 10. Absolutely. Beating Woodley, that you deserve a top 10 opponent.
Yeah, you do. And shouts out to Vincente Luque. Listeners, if you've been watching him fight for a little bit, he's like no slouch in the welterweight division, and he's going to be around for a little bit. I mean, if you saw, he had maybe second or third most finishes in the welterweight division.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like he's been around for a bit. Like Vincente Luque, if you know about him, you know about him, and if you don't, you probably do now at the least.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good to kind of bring that to the forefront now. Hopefully we can see what more he has to bring in his next fight.